Welcome to the Miracles Happen Fertility podcast, where science and spirit are the focus of creating your most fertile life. You'll find a beautiful balance of grounded science-based topics as well as spiritual talk, and how they are both important for moving toward optimal fertility. Empower yourself along with me. I'm your host, Dr. Maria Rothenberger, a fellow fertility friend, therapist, coach, best-selling author, and spirit baby intuitive. Let's get started. Hi again. Welcome to the Miracles Happen Fertility podcast. This is episode 152, and we're going to be talking about a very simple tool for communicating to your spirit baby or spirit babies, if you will. I am running the Spirit Baby Foundations training right now for the spring of 2022. If you are interested in taking a future rendition of the course, that will probably happen the fall. I am debating if I want to run it again or maybe just once a year in the spring. But regardless, head over to drmariarothenberger.com/spiritbabytraining and sign up there to get updated information on it. If I run it again, you'll be first to know. All right. So what has come up in the training this go around is the luck that people are having, or the great communication that they are having with their pendulum. Such a simple tool for communication. So what I want to talk with you today about is A, what is a pendulum? B, how to use it. That's it. Very simple. And I truly mean very simple communication. You do not need to be a medium or trained in any special way to use a pendulum, but there are some things that you'll need to do to set it up well so that communication comes clearly. And it's such a cool tool because of that reason. You don't need major training. Like I myself am doing a whole crystal healing certification training right now, and it's a lot of information, a ton of information, but the pendulum, super simple, super clean, and you're going to love it if you pick one up to talk to anybody, really, even your greater self. Okay, so first of all, what is a pendulum? A pendulum is really any item that has weight to it that is on the end of a chain or a string. That's it. It's a pendulum. It swings back and forth, right? You might remember, a pocket watch used in like old movies for like hypnosis and stuff. Watch the clock, watch the watch. That's a pendulum. It swings back and forth. In this context, a pendulum is something that is generally made out of some kind of crystal. And so I do recommend that we could go down a rabbit hole in terms of the usefulness of different crystals in your pendulum, but I recommend just a clear quartz crystal. There are many others that you can choose from. If a clear quartz crystal is not readily available, a clear quartz crystal pendulum is not readily available, it's really important to choose one that resonates with you. What do I mean by that? That means going into a crystal shop or a shop that sells metaphysical things. I recommend physically going into a store and not like ordering on Amazon or something like that, even though I have ordered crystals on Amazon and other online shops. When you're first starting out, I think it's really useful to hold and to be in the presence of your crystal. So I recommend going somewhere and seeing which ones like feel good to you or that are attractive to you and choose that one. That's really the most important thing. But if you're not able to do that physically, just get a clear quartz crystal pendulum. It's probably going to be a beautiful start for you. Okay, so what is the point of using a pendulum to communicate with your spirit baby? Well, so I am a medium, right? So I'm able to connect and communicate with folks on the other side, but I specialize in spirit baby stuff nowadays. And I'm clairvoyant. So I see images, I see movies, I see things that are in my mind's eye that I can then interpret and communicate for the person that I'm working with. But oftentimes, especially if you haven't done any training, like I just mentioned, the Spirit Baby Foundations training that I'm doing, or Kelly Meehan has some training. I consider that a little bit more advanced. And so, it's a perfect segue for after the foundations training. But if you haven't had any training like that, or if you don't have any practice in accessing your clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all that stuff, if you want to know more about that, shoot me an email or just use Dr. Google. So if you don't have access to those things, or you don't use them regularly, or you don't trust them, the pendulum is the perfect solution to communicate. And let me tell you, the pendulum is not mysterious. It works on vibration, just like everything has vibration. If I were to make sound from a drum right now, that's vibration. If I were to listen to some music right now, vibration. If I were to tap on my desk right now, it's creating a vibration, right? So a pendulum is no different. It's just based on vibration. Now, the difference is that you are tapping into your own energy, your own vibration that's going on within your body, within your aura, within your auric field, which PS is measurable, your energy field, electromagnetic field, measurable by technology nowadays. Just check out the HeartMath Institute. We know it exists. And the HeartMath Institute has measured it up to 3 feet outside of the body. That is the aura, or the electromagnetic field around us. They do think, though, that it is much larger than that, but at least that is measurable. The pendulum takes in the energy from your body and your energy field and translates that into the swinging movement of the pendulum. The cool thing with Spirit Baby communication is that you ask Spirit Baby to come into your energy. Their energy comes into your energy, and you're able to ask them questions. Now, this is a very simple form of communication. So we're only looking at yes and no questions, or questions that can be answered with yes or no. Sometimes there's a maybe or a not now thrown in there. And so I will explain that in a minute. But this is such a beautiful way to communicate. Okay, so now you've gone and you've picked up a pendulum. And now what do you do? So the first thing that you want to do is cleanse your pendulum. That the process of cleansing is literally removing energy that doesn't serve the product well, or the crystal well. So you can literally just run it under some water. Even tap water works. I actually prefer white sage. I like to smoke my pendulums or crystals. That resonates with me, but really kind of looking up some ways of cleansing some crystals and seeing what resonates with you. Again, really choose what feels right to you. I like to use white sage, so I use some smoke and I run the pendulum through the smoke for a couple of minutes. And then you need to charge your crystal. So that means putting clean energy back into the crystal. You could do this in myriad of ways, but my favorite is to put it outside when there's a full moon, or you can put the crystal in some sunshine for a lot less time. So I've read that can be like a couple of hours. I actually prefer no more than 30 minutes in the sun. I just feel like they get too like buzzy when there's when there's a lot of sunlight in them. So again, do what resonates with you, though. All right. So that's what you do. You cleanse the pendulum and then you charge it in various ways. Again, use good old Google to see what their options are, what the ways are of cleansing. Many people do it various ways that are just as effective. You can use it just by intention, meditating on cleansing the crystal and then meditating on charging the crystal. Once you've cleansed and charged the pendulum, the next thing to do is to program it. Now, you want to program it every single time that you use it. It's not necessary to cleanse and charge it every single time unless you've used it, unless it's an intense session. Say you're using it to check your chakra system and there's a lot of like heavy energy in your body right now. That's a whole other podcast episode, but if there's a lot of heaviness associated with when you're working with it, then it might be useful to cleanse it and charge it again. But once you've cleansed and charged it, it's now time to program it. Now, what does that mean? Programming it is asking the pendulum / your energy to show you what yes, no, and maybe look like on your pendulum. Yes, no, maybe, and not now. And what happens is that the pendulum swings a certain way for those different answers based on your energy, your current state right now. And so what you do, and this is a little bit difficult on an audio only podcast when you can't see me physically, but you're going to hold the pendulum in your dominant hand. And I like to hold it, usually there's a bead on the end of the chain when you get a pendulum. I like to hold it maybe an inch and a half below that, but really feel what resonates with you again, right? What feels comfortable to you. So you want to hold it in your dominant hand, keep your elbow on the table or on a surface in front of you so that you're not unintentionally swinging the pendulum, when it's just floating in the air, when your arm is just floating in the air, it's easier to just, swing it by accident. So you want to rest your elbow on the table. Ideally, it's not mandatory, but I think that it offers a little bit more stability and less concern about swinging it unintentionally. So place your elbow on the table, hold the pendulum up so that it can swing freely. And then with your other hand, your other palm, place it palm up underneath the pendulum, not touching it, just holding it underneath it. And you'll want to still the pendulum so it's not swinging. And then you ask, show me yes. Show me yes. Ideally, then, of course, the pendulum will swing in a certain direction. This could be a very subtle swing or a very large swing. And then you either still the pendulum or you say, stop, please. And then you say, show me no, show me no. And then it'll start swinging in a different direction to show you what no looks like. And then you say, show me maybe. And sometimes this is a clockwise circle or a counterclockwise circle. And then you ask, show me not right now, and see what that swing looks like, and so forth. So you're asking very simple questions so that you get these very simple answers. So now here's the cool thing. I recommend when you're first starting out to ask the pendulum questions that you already know the answer to. I did this in my Spirit Baby Foundations training where I asked the pendulum, do I like French fries? And of course it was like a big yes, because I love French fries. And then it was, do I like chocolate? And it was like in between, if I recall correctly, it was like in between yes and maybe. And that's true. Like, okay, I can take it or leave it. But if chocolate is sitting next to French fries, I'm down for the French fries every single time. But here's the really interesting thing. When you start asking questions of yourself that you don't know the answers to, and when you start inviting in Spirit Baby energy and asking Spirit Baby questions, here's an example. I asked, hey, pendulum, do I like French fries? And it was like a big swing, yes. And then I asked my Spirit Baby, do you like French fries? And it was no. The answer was no. So, right, it's like, that's fascinating and interesting, right? So you can see or sense or that's a piece of evidence, so to speak, that you are not connecting with your own energy anymore, or that I was not connecting with my own energy anymore. I was connecting with my Spirit Baby. And for those of you who have worked with me before, you know that I have a Spirit Baby on the other side, but I am done having children. I am done bringing children earthside, so she just hangs on the other side, helping me out with the work that I do now. And she may choose to move on to another family at some point. But so this is very simple, clean, straightforward work now, right? Once you have purchased your pendulum, cleansed it, charged it, and programmed it, you are now ready to communicate with your spirit baby very clearly. Sometimes it's not as clear, like when nothing happens with the pendulum. I was actually working with a pendulum just before this recording, and it would not move at all when I asked it to show me no, but it moved when I asked it to show me yes. So that's the thing. Now I know how my energy is today. If the question or the answer to the questions that I ask the pendulum are no, it's probably just not going to move. That's it. So there's either a swinging motion or non-swinging motion, or a circular motion, not a straight up and down or a cross motion. For me today, no movement at all. Now, I want to reiterate, this is not mysterious. The pendulum is just picking up on vibration. That's all it is. So I did a pendulum little activity. I had just gotten a new one, and I used it in front of my mom. My mom is really not into this kind of stuff. And so I did it in front of her, and she's like, that's just weird. She's like, that's spooky and weird. But it really isn't. It's just picking up on vibration in the same way that I would drop a stone in a lake and it would create a ripple. That's energy. It's vibration. That is all that the pendulum is. Not a mystery. The difference is there are the things that might feel mysterious, or if you are connecting with other entities outside of yourself. So if you start connecting with your spirit guides, or of course, the purpose of today's podcast episode is to communicate with your spirit baby, then things become a little bit like, I don't know, was that real? I'm not sure. And if you aren't sure, which is totally possible in the beginning, in fact, I think it's useful to be discerning and to question. Consider just testing and retesting. So, okay, pendulum, I'm now coming back to my own energy, and then asking the pendulum questions that you know the answers to. And then you can start asking it questions that you don't know the answer to. Perhaps this is something that may happen tomorrow, or there's something in question that's happening tomorrow. Ask the pendulum, write the answer down, and then see what happens tomorrow. So you're just testing and retesting, experimenting. I absolutely recommend doing this. It's A, it's really fun, but B, it's really useful for communication when you're not a medium and you haven't practiced being a medium and you don't want to be a medium. You just get very clear, simple answers through the pendulum, through this very simple communication. I just love it so much. And there's been a lot of success in the Spirit Baby Foundations training. People are getting amazing communication. In fact, one student commented that her pendulum was vibrating, like literally vibrating in her hand, which is a property of crystals. When they are compressed or stressed, they actually vibrate, or they can release light. Fascinating stuff. Well, I tell you what, I am looking forward to hearing from you about your own communication with Spirit Baby Realm. By the way, you can talk with multiple entities with the spirit, with the pendulum. You just say that, or have an intention around it. So if you have multiple babies, then you ask one to come forward and talk with them, and then you ask another to come forward and communicate with them. It's often absolutely fascinating because some of the answers are different from one another. It's just a lot of fun too. And even if you don't believe in this stuff, truly, it's mind-boggling how clear you can get when you work with this. It's just fun. It's a good fun time. And pendulums are relatively inexpensive, by the way. You do not have to spend $1 billion on them. A few bucks, between $5 and $10 maybe for a pendulum. You could also, if you don't want to go pick one up, use a necklace or something that you already have, and cleanse it and charge it like I talked about, and program it like I talked about, and see what happens. See what happens. It's especially if it's a piece of jewelry that you really love and you really resonate with, it's probably ideal to begin with. So you don't have to spend any money. All right, go have some fun with your pendulum and communicating with baby. I hope, as always, that this podcast episode has been useful for you and fun and entertaining and educational. And may you have much success communicating with your spirit baby or spirit babies. Until next time, my friend, be well.